The truth is, most men are completely blind to the subtle signals that reveal what's really happening in their relationship. They walk through life assuming everything is fine, trusting the words their partner says, and ignoring the small inconsistencies that their gut is trying to point out. But here is the reality that most people never want to face. Infidelity rarely happens without warning. It develops through complicated psychological processes that build up gradually over time, and language often reflects what is happening inside a person's mind. When a woman is emotionally involved in two relationships at once, her subconscious is constantly trying to balance two conflicting realities. On one side is her official relationship with her partner, while on the other is the hidden relationship she is attempting to keep secret. This internal conflict, which psychologists often describe as cognitive tension, creates a form of mental pressure that can cause certain words or expressions to slip out unintentionally. Have you ever noticed your partner saying something that sounded unusual or unlike the way they normally speak? What you are about to learn could completely change the way you interpret behaviors you have always overlooked. Before we get into the first phrase, there is something very important you should understand. Women involved in secret relationships often reveal subtle clues without even realizing it. In many cases, the words they use during everyday conversations can unintentionally expose what they are trying so hard to keep hidden. The 5 phrases we are about to explore are commonly used by women in secret relationships, and what you are about to hear may completely change the way you look at relationships from a different point of view. If you are a man who is currently in a relationship, this information may help you recognize warning signs that have been right in front of you the entire time, even though you have never paid much attention to them. The philosopher Epictetus, one of the great Stoic thinkers, taught that we should not be disturbed by events, but by our judgments about them. When you learn to read the signals that are already there, you stop being disturbed by confusion and start seeing clearly. The first phrase you may hear is, "I feel like you do not really understand me anymore," or "you do not know me the way you used to." Although these words may simply sound painful, they often carry a much deeper emotional meaning than what appears on the surface. In some situations, they may reflect the feeling that someone else understands them more completely. When these statements begin to appear repeatedly, there is a strong possibility that she is unconsciously comparing her current relationship with another emotional connection. If another relationship starts to feel more emotionally satisfying, these phrases can gradually become a way of justifying that situation in her own mind as she convinces herself that you have changed from the person you once were. Looking elsewhere for those missing emotional needs slowly begins to feel acceptable in her subconscious. Eventually, part of the responsibility seems to shift toward you, leaving you questioning yourself and wondering what you did wrong. Yet, the truth is often far more complicated than it first appears. Let us consider a practical scenario to illustrate this point. Imagine you have been with your partner for several years. You have built a life together, shared memories, and weathered challenges. But recently, she has started saying things like, "You just do not get me anymore," or "I feel like we are speaking different languages." At first, you take this as a sign that you need to try harder, to listen more, to be more present. You double down on your efforts. You plan date nights. You ask more questions. You try to reconnect. But nothing seems to work. The distance only grows. Meanwhile, she is spending more time at work, more time with friends, more time on her phone. You notice that she seems lighter, happier, more energized when she is away from you. And when she comes home, she seems drained, distant, almost resentful. What you do not realize is that she has already found someone else who makes her feel understood. And her words, "You do not understand me," are not a cry for you to try harder. They are a justification for why she has already checked out. She is not telling you that you need to change. She is telling you that someone else has already filled the emotional space you used to occupy. The philosopher Søren Kierkegaard observed that anxiety is the dizziness of freedom. When a woman is caught between two relationships, she experiences that dizziness, and her words often reflect the confusion of that state. The second phrase is, "I need some space," or "I just want some time to myself." When a woman involved in a secret relationship says this repeatedly, it does not necessarily mean she is distancing herself from everyone around her. More often, she may specifically be creating distance from you so she has room to manage other parts of her life. On the surface, it may simply look like a healthy desire for privacy or independence. However, in many situations, it can also create opportunities to spend time connecting with someone else. This is why paying attention to the small details that people often ignore becomes so important. If she continues saying she needs personal space while remaining highly active on social media, frequently going out, meeting friends, and maintaining a busy social schedule, then it is probably not genuine solitude she is looking for. What has truly changed is the level of closeness she wants with you. Someone who honestly needs personal space usually spends that time reflecting, reconnecting with themselves, restoring emotional balance, or focusing on personal growth. But when another romantic relationship enters the picture, the desire to stay socially active usually remains exactly the same. Instead, it is the primary relationship that slowly begins to receive less attention. Consider another scenario. She tells you she needs space, that she is feeling overwhelmed, that she just needs some time to clear her head. You respect her wishes. You give her the space she asks for. You do not call as much. You do not text as much. You try to be understanding. But you notice that she is still going out with friends. She is still posting on social media. She is still laughing, still having fun, still living her life. She just does not want to do it with you. That is the difference. A woman who genuinely needs space will often withdraw from the world entirely. She will take time to be alone, to process, to reflect. A woman who is creating space to manage another relationship will remain socially active, just not with you. The philosopher Martin Heidegger wrote that being is being with, that human existence is fundamentally relational. When a woman starts excluding you from her world while remaining present in others, she is redefining the relationship on her own terms. Another detail worth noticing is when this request first appears. Quite often, it starts after moments of deep emotional closeness or intense intimacy. Those experiences can trigger feelings of guilt, leading the person to create emotional distance as a way of reducing the psychological pressure they are experiencing. She may pull away not because she does not care, but because she cares too much and the guilt of her secret is overwhelming. She needs space not to think about you, but to avoid thinking about what she is doing. And that space, once created, becomes the room she needs to build her other life. The third statement usually sounds perfectly reasonable and convincing. It is something like, "This has nothing to do with you," or "It is not about you." These words often appear when you begin noticing changes in her behavior and try to understand what is really happening. Rather than receiving an honest explanation, you are simply reassured that whatever is going on has nothing to do with you. Yet in a close relationship, almost every emotional shift eventually affects both partners in one way or another. When someone repeatedly insists that their problem is not connected to you, it can sometimes be a way of avoiding questions they do not want to answer. The hidden message behind this statement is often, "Please do not look any deeper into this." Many men fail to realize that this phrase is frequently accompanied by noticeable emotional changes caused by another relationship. She may become emotionally distant, show less affection, or behave differently than she once did. When you notice these changes and ask what is wrong, it is much easier for her to respond with an explanation that prevents you from reaching the real issue. From a psychological standpoint, what is especially interesting is that she may genuinely believe she is protecting you from unnecessary pain by saying these words. In reality, however, those reassurances may prevent you from understanding what is truly happening in your relationship. Let us imagine a real situation. She has been distant for weeks. You ask her what is wrong. She says, "It is not you. I am just dealing with a lot right now. Work has been stressful. I am just tired." You accept that answer because it makes sense. Work has been stressful. She has been tired. You do not push further. But the distance continues. The emotional withdrawal grows. And then one day you find out the truth. She was not just tired. She was not just stressed. She was involved with someone else. And her words, "It is not about you," were not meant to reassure you. They were meant to close the door on your questions, to keep you from looking where you were not supposed to look. The philosopher Simone de Beauvoir, whose work on ethics and relationships has been widely studied, observed that one is not born a woman, but becomes one. And part of becoming a woman, in a society that often demands secrecy and performance, is learning to hide parts of oneself. When a woman says, "It is not about you," she may be hiding not just her actions, but her sense of self. The fourth phrase is one of the hardest to identify because it sounds completely reasonable and easy to believe. It usually sounds something like, "I am going through a difficult time," or "I have a lot on my mind lately." This explanation is one of the most common forms of emotional justification. When you hear words like these, your natural reaction is to be compassionate and understanding. Because of that, you often avoid asking additional questions, believing you should not add more stress to what they are already experiencing. But that is exactly where the issue begins. A person who is genuinely struggling emotionally often turns toward their partner for comfort, reassurance, and emotional support. However, in many situations involving infidelity, phrases like these become a convenient explanation for the emotional distance that is gradually developing. She is not turning to you for support. She is turning away from you. And she is using the excuse of her own difficulties to justify that distance. When a partner is truly going through a hard time, they usually seek closeness, not isolation. They want to be held, to be heard, to be understood. But when she is using this phrase repeatedly and still seems emotionally fulfilled elsewhere, you have to ask yourself, what is really going on? Consider this scenario. She says she is going through a difficult time, so you give her space. You try to be supportive. You ask if there is anything you can do. She says no, she just needs to figure things out on her own. Meanwhile, she is spending more time on her phone, more time with friends you do not know, more time away from home. She seems more alive, more vibrant, more present when she is away from you. And when she is with you, she seems drained, detached, distracted. You tell yourself it is just a phase. You tell yourself she will come back to you when she feels better. But the truth is that she has already found someone else to support her emotionally, and you are being phased out. The philosopher John Bowlby, who developed attachment theory, observed that human beings are wired to seek proximity to attachment figures when they feel threatened. When a woman is genuinely struggling, she will seek comfort from her primary attachment figure, which should be you. When she is seeking comfort elsewhere, you have been replaced as her safe haven. The fifth and final phrase is perhaps the most revealing of all. It is, "I do not know what I want anymore," or "I am confused about us." These words are often the closest thing to honesty that you will get. She is telling you, without telling you, that she is torn. She is conflicted. She is trying to make a decision between two realities. When a woman says she is confused about the relationship, she is not always lying. She may genuinely be confused. But the confusion is not about whether she loves you or not. It is about whether she loves you enough to give up the other person or whether the other person is worth losing you. That confusion is not a sign that she needs more time to figure things out. It is a sign that she is already invested elsewhere and is trying to decide which path to take. The philosopher Epictetus taught that we should not be upset by what we do not have, but rejoice in what we do. When she says she is confused, she is not rejoicing in what she has. She is mourning what she might lose, while also longing for what she might gain. Imagine you have been together for years. She tells you she is confused about the relationship. She says she does not know what she wants. She says she needs time to figure things out. You give her time. You wait. You hope. But the truth is, she already knows what she wants. She just does not want to tell you. She is not confused about whether she loves you. She is confused about how to end things without hurting you. She is confused about how to make the transition without feeling guilty. She is confused about how to live with the choice she has already made. The philosopher William James, often called the father of American psychology, wrote that attention is the taking possession by the mind. When you pay attention to her words, you are taking possession of the truth. You are seeing what is really there, not what you wish was there. But here is the deeper truth that ties all of this together. These phrases are not proof of infidelity on their own. They are signals, signs that something is shifting. They are not a guarantee that she is cheating, but they are a reason to pay attention. The difference between a healthy relationship and one that is falling apart is often the willingness to see what is right in front of you. When you hear these phrases, do not ignore them. Do not dismiss them. Do not tell yourself you are overthinking. pay attention. Ask questions. Observe behavior. And trust what you see. The philosopher Marcus Aurelius wrote that the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. When her thoughts are colored by secrecy and conflict, her soul reflects that, and others will feel it. They will sense that something is off. Trust that sense. If you find yourself recognizing these patterns, the first step is not confrontation. It is observation. It is paying attention to the small details that people often ignore. It is noticing the inconsistencies between what she says and what she does. It is trusting your gut when something feels off. And it is having the courage to ask the hard questions, even when you are afraid of the answers. The philosopher Seneca wrote that it is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. When you waste your time ignoring the signs, you are wasting the opportunity to protect your peace. When you waste your time hoping things will change, you are wasting the chance to build something real. You cannot build a relationship with someone who is not fully present. You cannot build trust with someone who is hiding parts of herself. You cannot build a future with someone who is already looking elsewhere. The philosopher Zeno of Citium, the founder of Stoicism, taught that the goal of life is to live in agreement with nature. And it is human nature to seek connection, but it is also human nature to protect oneself from harm. When you learn to read the signals, you are not being paranoid. You are being wise. You are living in agreement with nature by protecting your own well-being. Now, what do you do with this information? First, if you hear these phrases, do not immediately accuse. Do not attack. Instead, create space for honest conversation. Say something like, "I have noticed you have been saying you feel misunderstood lately. I want to understand what that really means for you." Or, "I hear you saying you need space, and I want to respect that. But I also want to check in and see how we are doing as a couple." The goal is not to catch her in a lie. The goal is to open a door for honesty. If she is willing to be honest, there may still be a path forward. If she is not, you will know by her reaction. Defensiveness, blame shifting, anger, those are signs that she is not ready to be honest. And that honesty is the foundation of any real relationship. The philosopher Kant, in his work on ethics, emphasized that we should treat others as ends in themselves, not means to an end. When you approach the situation with honesty and integrity, you are treating her with respect. You are giving her the opportunity to be honest, rather than forcing her into a corner. But you are also treating yourself with respect. You are protecting your own heart, your own time, your own future. Because in the end, the most important relationship you will ever have is the one you have with yourself. And that relationship requires you to be honest, to be brave, and to be willing to see the truth, even when it hurts. The philosopher Epictetus also taught that no great thing is created suddenly, and the same is true of trust. It is built through the accumulation of small, honest moments. When those moments are replaced by secrecy and distance, trust erodes. And once trust is gone, it is very hard to rebuild. If you have made it this far, you have already done something most people will not do. You have stayed present. You have listened. You have been willing to hear something that is not easy to hear. And that willingness, that courage, is what separates the men who get blindsided from the men who see clearly. The question is not whether these phrases exist in your relationship. The question is whether you are willing to see them for what they are. The philosopher Nietzsche, whose work on self-overcoming has influenced modern psychology, wrote that he who has a why to live can bear almost any how. When you have a clear understanding of what is happening in your relationship, you can bear the truth, even when it is painful. And that truth will set you free to make better choices, to build stronger relationships, and to live a life that is honest and true. If this video helped you see something you had been missing, share it with a friend who might need to see it too. And if you want to go deeper into understanding the psychology of relationships, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. The next video could be the one that changes everything for you. Until next time, stay grounded, stay present, and remember, the truth is always worth seeing.